Art. The expression or application of human creativity, imagination, and technical skill intended to communicate ideas, evoke emotion,
it's still real to me, damn it,
or reshape how we see the world.
We weren't just taking up space, we were making space.
We tend to think of it in lanes: visual, auditory, literary, or performative. But the most powerful works often blur those lines. Film can do this well. Video games, they go a step further, folding in interactivity, letting the audience become a part of the canvas. But in recent years, this potential has been dulled, stifled by corporate interests that treat art like product, shoving out lifeless content engineered for short-term profit, not lasting impact. But every now and then, something will break through, usually from an indie or AA studio fighting uphill. But now, in perhaps the most unexpected and culturally necessary fashion, Sandfall Interactive has delivered a true artistic triumph. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So based on my immediate enthusiasm, you can probably guess I have a lot of nice things to say about this game. But as always, I'll make a point of addressing criticisms as well. First though, let's talk about why this game's success was culturally necessary. As I've alluded to, and have ranted about many times before, the games industry has been plagued by a miasma of poor leadership and out-of-touch decision makers trying to reduce an inherently artistic medium to numbers on a spreadsheet. But that mindset has consequences. The end result is often an uninspired, soulless husk of a game, undermined by leadership too far removed to recognize or care that when a game flops, it stains the studio's reputation. Creating something genuine, something with artistic intent, is essential for long-term sustainability. Enter Sandfall. Founded in 2020 by ex-Ubisoft developers eager to escape the creative shackles of corporate game development, Sandfall Interactive set out with a clear mission: to craft narrative-rich, single-player experiences with high production value and unwavering artistic integrity. Their recruitment strategy focused on building a core team of passionate talent aligned with that vision, wherever that talent could be found. Reddit threads, SoundCloud demos, unconventional portfolios, it didn't matter. What mattered was creative commitment and the desire to make something meaningful. The result was a meticulously curated team of around 30 genuine artists, united under a single goal: to deliver a complete and immersive experience without resorting to the industry's usual parade of exploitative monetization practices. And unleashed, these artists did what they do best. Not just creating a genuinely good game, and not merely a great one, but an instant classic. A work deserving of being discussed alongside the all-time greats. Without a massive budget, a bloated team, or a single overpaid executive in sight, Sandfall Interactive exposed the folly of AAA. They proved you can make a high-quality, artistically ambitious game and still be financially successful. Before diving into the game itself, a quick heads up. While I always avoid showing or discussing any overt plot spoilers, there's no way to do this without showing characters and locations that some may consider spoilery. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. The game is set in a fictionalized version of France known as Lumière, in an era resembling the late 19th century. The land is fractured and torn apart, and looming in the distance, a monolith, and the paintress. Each year she paints a number, one lower than the last, and with each new number, those who've reached that age vanish from existence. In a desperate attempt to break the cycle, Lumière sends out an expedition of volunteers, venturing into the broken world with one goal: slay the paintress before she can paint again. Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG with real-time elements, most notably in its dodging and parrying mechanics. Before diving into the finer details of combat, I think these real-time aspects deserve some special attention. While not entirely new to the genre, there's something especially satisfying about how they're implemented here. Your engagement with them will naturally vary depending on the difficulty setting you choose, but as you face off against increasingly diverse enemy types and bosses, you'll constantly be making split-second decisions, dodging or parrying in a tense dance of risk and reward. Dodges are easier to pull off and come in two forms: a standard dodge or a perfect dodge. Parrying, on the other hand, offers no in-between. Either you time it right or you take damage. A successful parry immediately triggers a counterattack, though some enemy combos require you to parry multiple strikes in succession to land a counter. Certain attacks can only be avoided with a jump dodge, which also gives you a chance to strike mid-air. and later in the game, you unlock an alternate form of parry tailored to a specific type of enemy attack, adding yet another layer to the system. Real-time mechanics aren't just limited to defense, they're woven into offense as well. During your turn, you're not simply choosing an option and watching it unfold, you're actively involved, which I think goes a long way in making the game more approachable for those new to the genre. Each skill includes a timing mechanic, usually requiring you to hit a button at the right moment to boost damage or increase the chance of a critical hit. Every successful basic attack strike generates 1 AP, which can then be spent on skills, each with its own AP cost, or used to aim shots, particularly useful for targeting enemy weak points. Aim shots don't end your turn, allowing you to chain additional actions or use an item before wrapping up. Another layer of depth is introduced through gradient attacks, unlocked as the story progresses. These special abilities consume gradient charges, the gauge for which is filled by using regular skills. Each playable character has 3 unique gradient attacks unlocked by increasing their respective relationship levels. Standard skills are unlocked through each character's skill tree, with up to 6 equipped at any given time, letting you customize loadouts to suit your playstyle or specific encounters. Another mechanic that lets you shape your playstyle is the Picto and Lumina system. Each character can equip up to 3 Pictos, each associated with 1 or 2 combat stats that can scale or improve its values, in addition to offering a unique combat perk. When choosing your Pictos and Luminas, it's worth considering your character's attributes and equipped weapon. Weapons can be leveled up, come with their own perks, and scale off different stats, so while it's not strictly necessary, players' experience with the genre can really go deep in optimizing each character's build. After 4 successful combat encounters with a Picto equipped, it becomes mastered, which allows it to be equipped as a Lumina across multiple characters. There's no cap on how many Luminas a character can equip, but each one costs Lumina points. By default, each character has Lumina points equal to their level, but this cap can be raised using Color of Lumina, a plentiful resource you'll collect from various sources throughout the game. Now, it probably goes without saying in a game like this, but each character comes with their own gimmick, and while you'll probably gravitate toward a main, you'll still find yourself cycling through the whole cast for different types of challenges, and it never feels tedious. It's also worth noting that NPCs throughout the world sometimes react differently depending on which character you use to interact with them. Some will even offer items or outfits if you speak to them with the right character. Speaking of which, I do wish there was more outfit variety. I love collecting cosmetics, but most of the options in this game either felt too similar to each other or felt thematically incongruent. As for traversal, there aren't any major gameplay differences between characters, except for Lune, who in her default outfit has her feet out and facing the camera. Just a quick PSA for all the foot homies out there. But in all seriousness, even outside of combat, the game is gorgeous. The environments vary dramatically, shifting from lively, vibrant, and colorful to dead, dark, and broken. The overworld has this diorama-like quality that feels very reminiscent of Fantasian. And as you progress, you'll meet Esquier, a true gem of a guy who gradually gains new traversal abilities, letting your party reach new areas and uncover even more of the world. Honestly, this game does nearly everything right. The music is phenomenal, the visuals are both graphically and stylistically impressive, using motion-captured performances, including Andy Serkis, who I coincidentally raved about in my last video, and every single character is tremendously well written, each with optional side content that reveals true depth beyond the main narrative. The storytelling is instantly gripping and never lets up, propelled by a powerfully emotional opening that sets the tone and your motivation to keep pushing forward. As I said at the top, this game deserves to be spoken about alongside the all-time greats. But of course, no game is without room for improvement. Something I really dislike seeing in games is permanently missable content. There are rare cases where I think it can be justified, such as being the obvious consequence of a major choice. But generally, I'm the type of player who wants to experience and collect everything a game has to offer. Expedition 33 does include some missable content, including one instance right at the very start, before you've even had a chance to understand what will or won't be important. At the very least, games could account for this with a chapter select option, which I believe should be standard, even if it only becomes available after completing the game. Another feature I think should be standard in games is the ability to place map markers. Expedition 33 really leans into its side content, and some of it gets seriously tough. You'll often want to hold off and return later once you've leveled up, but without the ability to drop pins for future reference, it can get tricky to remember exactly where you wanted to go back to. And speaking of tough side content, while experienced JRPG players will likely find the early portion of the main story relatively easy, the difficulty ramps up quite significantly with each successive act. By the third and final act, a ton of side content opens up. Sounds great, right? And to be clear, it is great. There's plenty of meaningful backstory and world building to dig into. But here's the catch. If you go too hard on side content before tackling the final area, you'll be preposterously overpowered. I don't mind being able to break a game through grinding. Frankly, that's a core part of the JRPG experience. But in this case, the degree to which I overpowered the entire final area was a bit excessive, leading it to lack a certain impact. And I hadn't even completed all the side quests yet. There's honestly so much optional content that at a certain point, I just wanted to wrap up the story since I was so damn eager to see how it would all conclude. Overall, my criticisms feel pretty minor when stacked against how exceedingly amazing this game was in nearly every other respect. A true piece of art like this doesn't come around often, and for it to be a debut title from a AA indie studio really puts the reckless mismanagement of AAA into perspective. It shows the level of quality we should be expecting. Over the past year, it feels like all the best games have come from AA or indie studios, and I can only hope that AAA starts waking up to the shifting tides and finally corrects course. It might still be a little premature to say this, but honestly, I find it hard to imagine any other game topping this one for Game of the Year. But what did you think of Expedition 33? Were there any bosses that particularly chapped your ass? And what would you like to see from Sandfall moving forward? With a live-action film already announced, I'll start by hoping for an adaptation that's just as beautiful and just as bold as its source material. But if you've enjoyed what you've witnessed here today, I'd appreciate if you left a like and subscribe. And if you're so inclined, check out some of my other content. And as always, I hope you'll join me in the next one. I've been Punch and Funk. Keep it funky, fellas.